Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of D&D CR Exposed here on my channel. Today we are looking at another channel member request with the monster name being the Empyrean. Now I do have a YouTube short, so if you want to watch that instead of this longer version, you're more than welcome to do so. I will have a link in the description for that short video, as the numbers should all pretty much stand true. As for explaining what's actually going on here, let's take a look at the longer one. But before we get into that, let's take care of the business. And like magic, here I am in the lower left corner. Now, as for the business, if you like what I'm doing here and you'd like to get your hands on this same spreadsheet that I'm using for Google and your Google account, unfortunately you will need a Google account, you can get it from my Ko-fi page, link in the description below, where you can get it completely for free. Or, if you feel so inclined to, you can donate as much as you feel comfortable doing so. After that, if you'd like to request a monster, I suggest leaving a comment on the video for our YouTube AI algorithm overlords. Otherwise, you can also use the Google form in the description below, where you can fill out the form and request a monster that way. As I have mentioned for this particular video, that channel members or monthly coffee supporters do get priority for their videos getting pushed ahead. So it's kind of like a fast pass, and you'll get them immediately when I'm done. So instead of having to wait for an extended period of time, channel members and coffee supporters can get these items for free and ahead of the line. So with the business out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the Empyrean here, the long form Empyrean. So we are looking at, and we're going to start from the top down, a what do we see here? CR 23, and we're looking at 22 AC with a huge celestial. And let's see here, gonna pick this huge once it comes up. And the only thing this is doing is changing the D numbers here. And by D numbers, I mean the hit dice numbers. So as we see here, we have a D12 for huge creatures, and we will need 19 of those. So 19 pops us into that, and then we will move into the stats for our monster. So we have 30 strength, 21 dex, 30 con, 21 intelligence, 22 wisdom, and 27 charisma. And then from there, we can start looking into this little section here. We do have ourselves 4 saves. We will go ahead and update that over here in the defensive area, which will give us an effective +2 AC bonus. Then we also have damage immunities for bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. Since technically this is 3, this will trigger. Although, if you were to look at Tales of the Valiant, this only is considered 1, and we would need more damage immunities. But, that's a design philosophy between the two systems. So from there, we are all done with this section here, and we will now move into the monster traits. Now, for the time being, we are going to ignore the spell casting, and we will just look at everything else that is melee based and see if our CR aligns up there, and then we will add in spells as need be. So we do have legendary resistances, and we will come on over to this section here and throw in 3 legendary resistances. And then, as I can see here, right in the corner, we have magic resistances, which is basically the cousin or the sister feature that always comes with legendary resistances. You're always generally going to see magic resistances as well. Then we have magic weapons. This doesn't matter. It's just for bypassing resistances and doesn't affect our monster whatsoever. So we'll come back over here, and now we will start looking at the action sections. Now, oddly enough, we only get 1 attack. We either get 1 big heavy boy or heavy gal, heavenly creature attack from our maul, or a bolt of lightning, force, whatever damage. Apparently it can be anything, as we can see here. So we will look at whatever's going to be doing the most damage and pick that one for there. I believe, if I remember correctly, we went with melee. So let's go ahead and start adding in damage here. So for the first one, we have 31 points of damage for our melee swing, and if the target is a creature, they must make a con save or be stunned until the Empyrean's next turn. We can add that in if we decide to go with that. We are getting 31 points of damage there, and then for the bolt, we are dealing 24.5 points of damage there, which is, like I said, one of any of those types. Now I say a half because we have an odd number of dice. We have to remember to add in that extra little half die there. If you were to add up all the numbers on a d6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, divide that by 6, you will end up with 3.5 as the average. And then from there, the damage is whatever. So since our Maul is doing more damage and has a better attack chance to attack, we're going to go ahead and throw the attack bonus, excuse me. It's been a couple weeks since I've done this video. And we will use that damage as our main source of attacking, at least for the action anyways. From there, we also have the legendary actions, so we can either we can make one attack, which would be either a maul or a bolt. It doesn't specify which, and because our maul is doing a lot more damage, we're going to go ahead and throw in that one there for the first attack. Then we have Bolster. The Empyrean bolsters all non-hostile creatures within 120 feet. Bolstering creatures can't be charmed, frightened. So this is just boosting the effects, and technically this would be probably a low level DCR bonus, but because it's not really all that important, except for maybe the charmed section. I'm not going to worry too much about that one. And then we have Trembling Strike. The Imperium strikes the ground. All creatures within 60 feet must make a strength save or be knocked prone. Now, this one is kind of okay. It's still a prone effect and likely wouldn't really benefit our Empyrean all that much. Especially considering it's using 2 actions where we can get 93 damage plus an extra 31 here. Doing this Bolstering Strike, unless we have a lot of other creatures that aren't flying moving with the Empyrean as an ally, I would recommend probably not using this. Of course, every situation is completely different, and this is just a best case scenario of the Empyrean is on level ground, going back and forth with strikes and doesn't need to really worry about making anyone prone. Because then we are losing literally half of our effectiveness here. We would drop from 124, which is our legendary actions, and our 1 mana action here to 62. Yes, 62. So we are drastically reducing our potential output for damage here. So just for the sake of it, let's see what we get for just doing all melee and all maul attacks here. So our CR23 jumps up to a CR24, which isn't that bad. It's honestly, like, it's not, I can't think of the word I want to use. It's such a minute difference at this level that a CR23 and a CR24 aren't that far off. Now, let's remove the immunities here. Removing the immunities only reduces the defensive capabilities of our Imperium just a little bit, and technically we would be 23.5 here. Now, since there's no actual guidance in the DMG about average numbers for, calculating monster stats, and they only basically say for damage to round down, I generally follow regular mouth rules and round up. You could, in theory, round down, and depending on the rolls, this would likely be closer to a CR23 if you're rolling on the lower side of the averages. And we'd have to go from there. So, in theory, Okay, now that we've taken a look at the melee, let's go ahead and take a look at what would happen with the bolt action. So we'll go ahead and switch this around just a little bit here. We'll put some things back to the way they were and see what our damage output looks like for that. Looks like our ranges here are a little more different. And we're actually now seeing a CR22. So we go from a 24 down to a 22. So it looks like if we want to get an average for the Empyrean here, more than likely the best thing would be to split the difference here and do 2 melee attacks and 2 ranged spell attacks. And that will literally give us the CR23 without having to worry about spells. But with that, let's go for our best case scenario here. So we're going to go ahead and switch items back to where they're supposed to be. And as I was saying, we will go ahead and switch everything back to where it was beforehand. And now we'll go ahead and see about switching in for some spells. Now, I think we only have one really good spell here, which is Firestorm. The rest are pretty much for whatever you need for the campaign or the game that you're playing at the table at the time. For this moment, we have Firestorm, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, and with Firestorm here, now that I've reviewed it, it's going to be 7d10 times 2. So we will go ahead and say 5.5 times 7 times 2 for a total of 77 points of damage. Now, this is only a one-shot, and while Yeah, this will actually be really good for a one-off here because it is more damage than our main attack action for both the maul and the bolt. So we'll go ahead and do this up a little bit. We'll switch it up. So we're going to go ahead and throw this in here, and we're going to need, what was that, 17 I'm pretty sure for the maul. Yep, the maul was 17. And then from there we will go ahead and throw in the damage from here. So we are concentrating on our legendary actions. Technically we're concentrating, and then we will go ahead and say for round 1 we're going to use our firestorm. Rounds 2 and 3 will be our maul, and we end up with, again, a CR24. So again, the main idea here, and if we go ahead and remove immunities, we still have the CR24 this way as well. The best thing to do here is to get that 23 is going to be bouncing back and forth between, using bolts and using maul. So basically only use maul if there's melee on top of the Empyrean, and then switch to bolt attacks and go from there with the legendary actions and the maul and what have you. Otherwise, maybe throw in a trembling strikes or bolster if need be. But primarily speaking, with the pullback on the offensive capabilities with some of the legendary actions or the magics, you're likely going to get a somewhat balanced Empyrean here, as long as you're using more offensive capabilities than defensive. I would say 75% of the time offensive and 25% of the time defensive. Okay, thank you so much for joining me as we looked at this channel member requested monster. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy watching this one as well. And I will see you in the next video.